Okay, strings.
Commissioner Duarte, can you hear us over the Zoom? We can't hear you yet.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Aldo, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We're still getting set up. It'll be another minute.
Okay.
although we're ready to begin whenever you are.
Okay, great. Thumbs up. Okay, good evening. Welcome to the February 17th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Please note this meeting is being attended by the Planning Commission and applicants via teleconference. We thank you for your patience as we navigate city business through this new meeting process. Just want to remind everybody when not speaking, please place yourselves on mute as any noise will be picked up by the speakers and is disruptive to the meeting. I will now call this meeting to order. Planning Secretary Camel, can I have your roll call, please?
Vice Chair Owens is absent. Commissioner Spathopoulos,
Present.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Present.
Commissioner Montoya,
Present.
and Chair Duarte.
Present. Okay. Now's the time for announcements, requests for future agenda items, and conference meeting reports. We'll now take turns asking the commissioners if you have any announcements, agenda item requests, or meeting reports. Commissioner Espatos?
None, thank you.
Commissioner Montoya?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I do not have any. Now going on to presentations. Community Development Director Schindler, are there any presentations tonight?
No presentations tonight, Chairman Duarte.
Okay. Commissioner, Community Development Director Schindler, are there any city council actions to report on?
No items to report on, Chairman.
Okay. Now going on to the public hearing item. The item for PLN-19-00-192. Does the secretary have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Director Schindler, can you introduce the staff person presenting this item?
Thank you, Chair Duarte. Tonight we have Guillermo Ariola, our principal planner, to provide the presentation.
Okay, great.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Before you is application PLN 19-00192. It is a request to allow a 2,284 square foot expansion to an existing 945 square foot restaurant, exterior facade remodel, outdoor dining area, and live entertainment. At this point, I am going to share my screen so that everyone can see. So 1 second here. All right, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Sorry about the delay there. The subject site is located at 8100 through 04 Firestone Boulevard, and the name of the business is Mariscos Choiks. The site is located at the southeast corner of Firestone Boulevard and Myrtle Avenue, and is located in the downtown Downey specific plan, Firestone Boulevard Gateway District. The applicant is proposing to create a uniform facade between the two tenant spaces. As you can see, they vary greatly. And in addition, they're going to be removing those parking spaces and replacing that area with covered seating for the length of the site there. The improvements of the site include a facade remodel, as stated previously. This light blue area is a slight encroachment into the adjacent property, which will require an access and maintenance agreement to be recorded between the two properties prior to the issuance of building permits. The request also includes a 1,347 square foot covered patio along the front of the building, in addition to the existing 945 square foot seating area along the east side of the building. The site will also include a new trash enclosure compliant with Calumet standards along the southeast corner of the property. reconstruction of the driveway along Myrtle. And in addition to the removal of those parking spaces, the removal of the driveway approach along Firestone Boulevard to be replaced with sidewalk, curb, and gutter to match existing. And lastly, though not much, they are providing landscaping along the Firestone and the Myrtle Avenue frontages. The floor plan will help out the restaurant greatly. It will expand the kitchen area. It will include a bar, beverage bar, including a sushi bar, um, additional seating, expand the kitchen area, which is very small now, and greatly improve productivity and efficiency. And one of the benefits of this remodel is that not only can you still access the restrooms from the outside, but now you have direct interior access to those restrooms, which again, the restaurant currently lacks. The restrooms are ADA accessible, they're ADA compliant. Primary access to the site will be via Firestone and directly into the restaurant and or to the outdoor seating areas. The remodel will bring a uniform look to the building that it currently lacks, a consistent design, and it will include this large covered patio along Firestone and along the east side. It will include a tan stucco finish with a natural stone veneer on the front facade, including a natural stone veneer on the reinforced 36-inch high block wall along the front, along the which wraps around the seating area. The natural stone will also wrap along the west side of the building facade, along the west elevation. The parapet walls will include wood siding, brown highlights to complement the building, and the brown patio columns, again, bringing it all together. Landscaping will be provided again along Firestone and Myrtle Avenue. And the new trash enclosure will include a natural stone veneer with a standing seam metal roof. Again, the natural stone to complement the natural stone found on the building. And these are the materials that are proposed on the building. The colors below are the colors shown on the plans, but the material above is the actual sample. So you get the actual color of what it's going to look like. The natural stone on the right, and the patio cover is going to be a solid roof with rolled gray shingle. You won't be able to see it, but that is the material that will be proposed. And the site will include, again, landscaping. It's going to include a mix of plants, flowering plants, and 4 existing king palms on the property already. And the west facade will include a creeping fig vine that will over time grow and create a green wall along the west elevation. Again, the site currently operates with a Type 47 ABC license. Live entertainment will include up to 4 musicians, DJ, and karaoke. Live entertainment will be limited to the inside of the restaurant building, the existing outdoor seating area east of the restaurant, and karaoke is limited to inside of the restaurant building. Only string instruments, the accordion, sorry, it says accordion, it should be accordion, and the singer can be amplified. Hours of operation, currently the hours of operation are 10 to 2 a.m., 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. The applicant is requesting to change the hours from 10 a.m. to 7 a.m. So 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. to accommodate breakfast. And the hours of operation of live entertainment are below. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, inside 11 to 11 p.m. Thursday, Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. and Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. Outside, it's 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. Thursday through Friday, and 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. I'd also like to mention that should this project be approved, resolutions 15-2920 and 16-2971, which approved and amended the project, will become null and void. So, as I mentioned before, the parking area will be removed from the site. And many of you are aware, the parking is quite hazardous. People have to back out directly onto Firestone Boulevard, creating a hazardous situation. So, because the site is located in the downtown Downey specific plan, they are allowed to eliminate their parking. However, they are required to enter into the parking credits program with the city, and the square footage of the restaurant and outdoor seating area would require 27 parking spaces. The yearly fee for those 27 parking spaces is $5,508. And the removal of the parking is consistent with the overarching goals of the downtown specific plan, which encourages shared parking, public parking lots throughout the downtown to support a mixed use of businesses and to also encourage pedestrian activity. The applicant has been informed of the yearly fee. The Development Review Committee reviewed the project. A revised security plan was submitted to accommodate the expansion of the restaurant. The police department has reviewed and approved the security plan reflecting the expansion. Public Works required the following: removal of the driveway approach along Firestone Boulevard, which is proposed, and reconstruction of driveway along Myrtle Avenue. And all other departments provided standard conditions of approval. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you for the presentation. I'll now take turns asking each commissioner if he has any questions for Mr. Areola. Commissioner Espatos?
Yes, thank you. I'll try to make this as fast as possible. I know we have a lot of stuff on the schedule tonight. Guillermo, the first question I have is the open air patio area. Is that at the east that I see on these plans here? There's only one area that's actually open air, which is close to where it currently stands right now?
It's open air, but it will be covered, sir.
Okay. And then the corner of the building that sits on, I believe it's Myrtle and Firestone, it's closed. It's enclosed with windows and walls, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But and just to clarify, but the outdoor patio, covered patio will be in front of it.
The outdoor patio will be in front on the corner of Myrtle and Firestone?
Is it okay to go back to the site plan to show?
Please, let's go back there so we can see it. The way I saw it, I saw an open air.
So this will all be a covered patio area.
Open.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll go back to the
exterior picture if you can. Okay. Yeah.
So it's open. There's that window you're speaking of, but in front of it.
That's open. The picture on top underneath Marisco's Choi on the right side, it looks like there's windows there. That's open air. There's no windows, right?
This is all open, sir. This is all the patio cover area all the way across.
Okay, because I see brick on the corner there, Myrtle and Firestone. Yes.
Brick. Well, the facade will include the natural stone.
Okay. The reason I ask is, again, I'm always, concerned with safety, and I want to maintain consistency in making sure that people are safe when they're eating there. And I think we brought this up with the dirt dog, where it's, can a car be speeding down there, and will that become an issue? So let's put that on the back burner. I have some more questions for you. Then the parking agreement that you mentioned for 27 spaces, was it discussed at all to create, I'm assuming the parking agreement would include the parking structure in downtown Downey, behind or in front of the Bank of America building, behind the AAA building, so all public city parking areas. Was there ever a discussion to include a crosswalk that comes from the south side or from the north side to the south side of the street? Otherwise, how would pedestrians get there since there's a shared parking agreement?
Well, the property is located at the corner of Myrtle and Firestone, so there's a crosswalk there at Firestone to go to the north side and there's a public parking lot 140 feet across the street on Firestone,
On the north side.
on the north side, correct?
So they would have to cross the street.
Yes,
So they would park on the north side, walk to the gas station, cross the street to the CVS, and then walk back east towards the business.
Mr. Chair, if I may interject as well on this conversation.
Yes.
That is one of the items that we did take a look at. Typically, when we have offsite parking, there's analysis, there's a study. In this particular situation, because it's part of the overall specific plan for the downtown, that downtown analysis established that we should have centralized shared parking, and the specific plan didn't identify any need for additional crosswalks. We did route this through different departments, and none of the other departments, Public Works or any of the other departments, identified a need for additional crosswalks. We do have a Public Works representative with us in the meeting right now, and he can probably weigh in. But typically, when it is part of a specific plan, that includes centralized parking and sharing of this sort. All of that was done back in 2005 when this analysis was initially adopted and when this plan was laid out.
Okay. I bring that up, and maybe the other commissioners can think about that. For the sake of cohesiveness, I think incorporating this as a part of downtown Downey would be awesome, to incorporate some type of crosswalks besides the Downey Avenue crosswalk and the Paramount Avenue crosswalk. Otherwise, you're not crossing the street unless you're on Paramount or Downey Avenue. So I'll continue. You mentioned something about an encroachment and easement on the southeasterly part of the property.
yes.
Is that something that is just staying at this point? Because it looks like the trash enclosure is going to be there.
Yes, the trash enclosure, the covered patio area will be encroaching into that area.
Okay. And they've already entered into an agreement. Everyone's okay. What is it, because they need more space that there's an easement there for the trash?
That area has been historically used for this restaurant during the previous conditional use permits. This area in question has always been used by this site. And this time we decided to have them go through an agreement with the property owner next door to allow them to use that area.
If I can provide additional clarification, it's the same property owner for both parcels.
Okay.
And just historically that was done, and we decided to record it so that there isn't any future issue if there's a change of ownership on either parcel.
Okay. And what's the current entertainment schedule? You mentioned Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 11 to 1. What's the current entertainment schedule?
That's the same entertainment schedule that's in place now. There was no change to those hours.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
If I can go back to your original inquiry in regard to the wall and the safety of that outdoor patio area, we do remember the meeting where that was brought up for Dirt Dog. That's why, and it was mentioned, but I think it was mentioned sort of quickly. It is a reinforced wall that's proposed there, so the bollards and the reinforcement is incorporated into the design of that wall itself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Espatos. Commissioner Montoya, do you have any questions for staff?
Yes, thank you, Chair Duarte. Commissioner Spatos addressed my big concern with safety and the crossing issue. So I just want to note that I share that same concern he did about people getting across the street. The only other question I had was that I know that they were changing the driveway entrance on Myrtle, but there's no parking, so that's just merely for the purpose of food deliveries that are going to be going in and out. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Food deliveries and the trash pickup.
Okay, perfect. So then, so there wouldn't be any public cars that should be going in and out for any
No,
reason?
sir.
Okay, then I think other than those two issues, that addresses all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Montoya. Commissioner Ortiz?
Yeah. So I do also want to share the same sentiment that both commissioners mentioned. I think we should really consider having a crosswalk right there where it was mentioned. And I do have a question about the live entertainment. It does mention that live entertainment will be outside. If I'm reading correctly, it says live entertainment limited inside of the restaurant and building, but it says right there outside entertainment from 6 p.m. and Saturday, Sunday from 11. What kind of live entertainment is going to be outside?
Sure. So the slide that's up right now is actually perfect for this explanation. The current use and the current conditional use permit allows for live entertainment on the east side, the existing outdoor patio that's there. So this approval will limit it any live entertainment in that new front portion directly adjacent to Firestone Boulevard. So these hours and this restriction applies only to that east portion, and the operator, the business owner, is fully aware and has been in full agreement with that understanding. They can retain their existing use of the east patio, but this will not be allowed in the front area. He also was in full agreement that we limit the amplification to the string instruments, the accordion, and not to any trumpets or anything else that would have any potential impact to surrounding businesses.
That's all the questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortiz. I might just thoughts. I think just to reiterate what my other commissioner stated. Crystal, you said we have somebody from Public Works there. Maybe we can hear from them in terms regarding a crosswalk on Myrtle and Firestone. As Commissioner Spato stated, right now they would have to cross from Downey Avenue or Paramount. Maybe we can hear about from the Public Works about having a crosswalk on Myrtle through Firestone.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Ed Norris, Deputy Director of Public Works with the Public Works Department and also City Traffic Engineer. The nearest signalized intersection with the crosswalks on Firestone Boulevard is at Lorena Avenue, which is approximately 300 to 400 feet to the east on Firestone Boulevard. So that will be the closest existing protected crosswalk across Firestone Boulevard, which would link the restaurant to the public parking spaces on the north side of Firestone Boulevard. So that would be my immediate recommendation, or as far as what is currently available. In order to install a marked crosswalk on Myrtle Avenue, or Myrtle Street rather, on Firestone Boulevard would more than likely require the intersection be signalized to protect the pedestrian, due to the fact that Firestone Boulevard is a 6-lane arterial street with a traffic volume of 35 to 40,000 vehicles per day. So it would have to have some means of protection to protect pedestrians while they cross Firestone Boulevard at Myrtle. That would require an engineering study to determine the appropriate level of in terms of a traffic control device, which would protect the pedestrians crossing Myrtle at Firestone Boulevard. So that would have to be independently conducted and would have to consider the pedestrian volume plus the traffic volume in terms of vehicles turning from Myrtle on both sides on the Firestone Boulevard or going across.
Ed, just for clarification, the issue of a crosswalk at that location and any study you'd need to determine whether it need to be signalized or not, those are issues that are for the city's obligation or responsibility. That's not something we put on the applicant.
Yes, that's correct. We did not require a traffic study.
Yeah.
For this particular development. Not unaware of the question about pedestrian circulation across Firestone Boulevard. So based on sheer traffic volume alone, a traffic study wasn't warranted, but this particular question would trigger an engineering study and traffic study to investigate the feasibility of having a crosswalk at that location.
Thank you. I have one more question for Mr. Ayola, staff. Um, I see here the operations with the DJ and the karaoke. Um, it says there's no fixed location for the DJ equipment. Um, I just want to know, I guess my concern is, before I ask my question is, I see the condition of no dancing. My concern is if the DJ is, or karaoke machines or whatnot, are set up maybe in the middle of the restaurant, we'll lose seating tables and it will create a de facto dance floor. Um, so just want to know, um, was there any consideration of making it a fixed area where no seating is compromised?
If I may, there was discussion in regard to a designated area for the DJ. And the business owner is on if you wanted to further discuss with him later, but in staff's discussion and analysis of it, he identified that there wasn't a fixed location, that the likely activity would just result in somebody with a laptop either stationed at the bar or at one of the tables, so that the tables would not be cleared or relocated. And I believe, and Mr. Ariola can correct me, that most of the seating in there is actually fixed seating, so it's not movable, and we wouldn't have the dance floor issue.
If I may add, the applicant has indicated that karaoke would not be taking place in one centralized location. It would actually, because of the number of cameras, they'd be able to sing from their table and not have to, again, go to a stage or a fixed location to sing. They can do it from their table.
And then just lastly, Guillermo, because I know just that recently we've been going away from pay-per-view events, paid pay-per-view events. I know the applicant had that existing condition. Was that also kind of looked at in terms of, maybe going away from that or not?
We didn't want to take away a condition that they already had. We were trying to work with the applicant, and no, while we talked about it, we decided that to give them the benefit of a condition that they already had with their existing conditional use permit.
Okay, thank you. And just lastly, in terms of, since they've been in operation, any issues in terms of any extracurricular activity? I might put it that way. Anything of that nature?
Well, we have had 13 calls for service over the past year. We ran those, we obtained those calls for service from the police department, and they did not have any issues with the proposed expansion of the restaurant and the live entertainment. They felt that the additional security guard would be sufficient. In addition, they have 16 CCTV cameras located on the restaurant. They're going to double it to 32, and it will also include the perimeter of the restaurant, not just interior, for additional security purposes.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that city meetings rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you're participating telephonically. Each speaker shall have 3 minutes to address the commission. Members of the public wishing to address the planning commission regarding the public hearing for item PLN-19-00192 only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. I will now open the public hearing and will start by inviting the applicant to address the commission. Is that the applicant?
Sir, you're muted.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much all for your time. First and foremost, I want to thank Guillermo. We've worked with this for about a year already, and it's been a lot of back and forth, but I want to thank you, Guillermo, and the city of Downey for their time, planning commissioners. I want to thank you all for allowing me to continue to do business in Downey. I live here in Downey, and for over 20 years, resident, live 2 blocks down from the restaurant, and I love doing business in Downey. I do want to address one thing. One of the planning commissioners mentioned something about dancing. So when it comes down to dancing, when there's live entertainment, anyone attempts to dance, the music gets stopped by whether it's by the trio, by the mariachi, or by the norteño. The minute anyone tries to dance, they automatically stop and they tell them that there's no dancing. I have a no dancing posted signs. Then also I want to touch bases with the curricular activity that you mentioned. We have a 0 tolerance policy for nuisance behavior. We've been known that we don't tolerate any drunkenness. We don't tolerate any kind of activity that doesn't promote a healthy environment for families. With that said, again, I want to thank you for your time, Guillermo, Crystal, everyone from the city of Downey.
Okay. Anything else you want to let us know? Okay, I will now take turns asking commissioners if they have questions for the applicant. Commissioner Spatos?
We mentioned live entertainment. So live entertainment at this point is the open air area as it is right now. And that's where the live entertainment will stay, right? It's not going to go to any other area other than the east side of the property. So the open air areas that now are being included into this property will not include any live entertainment, correct?
That is correct. It's to the east side.
Correct. So east side only. The other question I have is, Crystal mentioned something about mobile karaoke, which I think is great. I think it's really neat. Do you think that will create some type of live entertainment if someone's singing karaoke on the west side that's close to Firestone and it turns into a big party, which everyone loves? But isn't that incorporating some type of live entertainment in other parts of the restaurant?
So the good news is that the karaoke is only limited to the inside of the restaurant, not the outside.
Right. So my question is, because it's open air and the live entertainment is restricted to the east side of the property, if there's a live entertainment karaoke, and I'm assuming it's one of these mobile DJ guys with a mic who goes around and does mobile karaoke, is that, if someone starts singing on the other side of the restaurant that's open air, does that, maybe you can enlighten me, Crystal, I don't know, does that become a live entertainment area now?
Yeah, if I can, condition number 19 in the resolution specifically calls out that karaoke is limited to the indoor seating area only. So it's not even allowed in the outdoor east or any of the outdoor patios.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Spatos. Commissioner Ortiz?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Montoya?
No further questions to add. Thank you.
Okay, great. I think you answered my questions. I like the signage that you stated that will be there for the no dancing. And just I think Crystal mentioned this. You said the seating inside, it's fixed seating. Basically, it's bolted down to the floor, the tables.
I want to say about 90% of it will, yes.
90% of it will? Okay, great. Yeah, I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Secretary Cadmo, may I have the first speaker on the phone?
There are no calls for public comment.
Okay. Secretary Cadmo, do we have any written public comment on item PLN-19-0192 to be read into the record?
There are no emails for public comment.
Okay, we will now be closing the public hearing. Now we want to take turns discussing this, commissioners, on any thoughts or deliberation here. Commissioner Montoya, do you have any thoughts?
Nothing too substantial. I just wanted to make the comment that this is it's a grand expansion. So I wish you luck on your business endeavor, and I hope it's successful.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yeah, as someone who comes from a line of restaurant family, I can sympathize with you with the feeling you get when you want to expand. All your hard work, all the dedication. So I know it's paying off. So I congratulate you on expanding, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Thank you very much. It truly means a lot to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortiz. Commissioner Espatos.
Great looking project. I think it's going to do a lot to beautify that corner of Firestone and Myrtle. Looks really nice. The renderings look great. I like it. I think it's an added improvement to the downtown area. I would like to discuss in the future, and we'll tackle this, I guess, at another point in time. But if we want to incorporate businesses to move to the Firestone area, to the south side Firestone area, where a lot of those businesses are empty, we need to consider potentially putting in a crosswalk, maybe a sky bridge, something. But back to the point, I think it's great, a great presentation. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Espatos. Yeah, I think my concerns were kind of alleviated in terms of, the 13 calls, not too much. The police here, especially with the added security, doesn't seem like, much concerns. And it seems like they've been a good addition to the downtown area since their opening. And just, I think it's exciting that, during these times we had in COVID, they're actually expanding their business here in Downey. The building now will be conformed. It looked a little odd passing by. And I actually like that we're doing away with the non-conforming parking and putting out a little outside seating area. So the owner is a Downey resident, which, so we definitely like to see that too. So, my thoughts are, very positive for this project. With that said, is there a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve PLN-19-00-192.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
I'm sorry, can I confirm the second?
I make that second motion.
Commissioner Montoya.
And I'm sorry, the first was?
Commissioner Espatos.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Secretary Kavanaugh, may you please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Spathopoulos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Aye.
Commissioner Montoya?
Aye.
And Chair Duarte?
Aye.
And the motion passes with all four in favor to approve PLN 19-00192.
Congratulations.
Okay, now moving on to our second agenda item here, PLN-19-00132. Does the Secretary have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. Director Schindler, can you introduce the staff person presenting this item?
Thank you, Chair Duarte. Tonight we have Crystal Landavazo, our city planner, making the presentation.
Bear with me while I get this loaded. Okay, can everybody see the screen? Great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Tonight before you is a request, 3 applications being presented as one project, a site plan review, conditional use permit, and zone change. The subject site is located on the west side of Woodruff Avenue between Stewart and Gray Road and Washburn Road. The site is currently occupied by the Kirkhill Manufacturing business. They're a rubber manufacturing company. The existing buildings altogether compile about 193,451 square feet of building area. on a 6.31 acre lot. The site currently has 2 zoning designations, an M2 general manufacturing designation, as well as a PB parking buffer designation, and we'll get into this a little bit later in the presentation. This is a existing site view for you from Woodruff Avenue of the existing building. Again, this building will be demolished as part of the project. So the first application that we're reviewing is the site plan review. The proposal, as you'll see shaded in blue, is for a warehouse and office building. The office building will be fronting Woodruff Avenue. The warehouse will be elongated, extending toward the rear of the property. There is going to be a 0.16 floor area ratio and lot coverage for this site. They're allowed up to 60% of the site, so they're well below that requirement. The overall building height will be 36 feet. I believe it's 35 for the warehouse, 36 for most of the office, and 40 overall with a design architectural element at the front of the building. 45 is the maximum height allowed in this area of the city. 10% of the site, as required by code, will be landscaped, and all of that landscaping will be abundantly placed throughout the frontage, as seen from Woodruff Avenue. Gates and fencing will be placed just behind the office so that you'll have limited visibility to the loading bays to the rear of the property, and all you'll see are the new elevations and the landscaping with parking along Woodruff Avenue. 56 parking stalls are required for a building of this size with this use. All of that is provided at the front of the property facing Woodruff Avenue, and 76 truck stalls are also going to be provided, again because the proposed use is a freight and truck terminal, so that is going to accommodate the needs of the business. Before you, you'll see the proposed front elevation. This is going to be visible and fronting on Woodruff Avenue. It consists of, essentially the building is it's a tilt-up building, but they're adding different architectural features, textures, and different materials to try to enhance the elevation. So there's a composite wood, there's glazing in the windows, and this rendering here provides a better visualization of what the streetscape improvement will be to that area of Woodruff Avenue. So again, you'll see there's different modulation. There are some recesses where the wood composite material is being placed. There's canopies that come out and extend over with wood below as an architectural reveal. There's different textures through the building and lots of window glazing. And this again is a view of what the new building and the new site improvements will look like as you're heading north on Woodruff Avenue. Again, you'll see primarily the office building, much of the landscaping, and then the loading areas to the rear will not be as visible given the existing buildings and industrial buildings in the surrounding area. Here again, you have an example of the different types of foliage, the different types of trees and different shrub heights that are going to be provided throughout the front of the property. So going on to the secondary part of this request, a freight or truck terminal by regulations in our city's municipal code requires a conditional use permit. So the conditional use permit assesses what the proposed use is going to be for the property. This property, again, we've identified about 36,000 square feet is going to be for the warehouse at the rear. About 8,000 square feet is going to be the office at the front. 70 loading bays will be provided along the north and south elevations of that building behind the fencing. 76 freight stalls again are going to be provided, and this truck terminal operation will occur 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Any project that occurs within the state of California is subject to the California Environmental Quality Act, which requires assessment of potential environmental impacts that may be caused as a result of the development of the project, unless it is exempted by Article 19 of the CEQA guidelines, which most smaller projects are. This is a much larger, it's a over 6 acre site, and it's completely new development with demolition of existing. So in accordance with CEQA, an initial study was conducted for the property. The initial study involved various studies that were prepared to assess different potential impacts, different potential environmental impacts. You'll see at the very bottom of this slide the gamut of items that were assessed and evaluated to determine if any potential impacts would result. The final evaluation of this assessment was that less than significant impacts would occur with mitigations incorporated into the project. So we can go into the fact that the initial study led to the preparation of a mitigated negative declaration. The checkmarked items, there are 6 of them. The biological resources was one of the items that was identified. The mitigation measure here was that, we'll go through it. You received your packets of almost 3,000 pages of it. So if you didn't have a chance to go through that in detail, we'll go through that for you right now. So again, the biological resources was the nesting birds. So between February 1st and September 1st, there's potential for birds to be nesting in trees throughout the city. So this mitigation measure is just that a qualified biologist visit the site 1 week before any construction activity is supposed to commence to verify that there is either the presence or absence of bird nesting, and then they'll determine whether or not construction starts at that point. The geology and soils mitigation measure was placed in there in case there is a finding of fossils at any time that the grading or ground disturbance work is taking place. If they do find fossils on the site, then all work is supposed to stop until a paleontologist is called to the site to assess what the state is. In regard to noise, the study found that any mitigations that would be required are only in relation to the construction of the site. So this is a temporary phase. Construction only happens while the building is being developed. After that, the operations of the site will not cause any noise disturbances that required mitigation. Cultural resources was another item that was identified, and this one is in regard to artifacts. If there are any artifacts that are found, again, while there's grading or ground disturbance, then an archaeologist is called to the site to assess what the finding was, and no work is to occur around the finding site. Hazards and hazardous material was another mitigation item that was called out. This mitigation is in relation to 2 factors. There were underground storage tanks, 4 underground storage tanks on the property, again, given its historic use. 3 of the underground storage tanks were removed. 1 was abandoned in place. All 4 of them received clearance from the county health department that no further action is required. One of the mitigation measures, however, again, this was done years ago, just identified that some clarification is needed in the paperwork, but again, they've agreed that there is no further action that's needed in regard to those underground storage tanks. Another item in this category is that a 1990s asbestos study identified that there was some asbestos on the site. However, it did not identify whether it was part of all buildings, some materials, some of the mechanical equipment on the site. So another study will have to be done before any of those items are removed. And finally, tribal cultural resources was another mitigation item that was added to this report. And this is in regard to our outreach to different tribal representatives in the area. One of the groups responded back and they did request that we add in a mitigation measure identifying that a tribal monitor be present at the site anytime that there is ground disturbance. And if there is something of a tribal cultural resource that is found, then the tribe gets to maintain ownership of that item. So again, I did want to reiterate and provide some clarification because this is a 24-hour operation, 7 days a week. So here you'll see that the subject site is located on the west side of Woodruff Avenue. The nearest single-family residential zone is located 200 feet to the south of the property. And the nearest R3 multifamily zone is located 630 feet to the west of the property. What the study found is that the operations that would be occurring on the site are mitigated due to distance and the existing development surrounding it, so that when noise readings are taken at either of the residential areas, the loudest that the operational noise would be is 42 decibels at any time, day or night. And for just a point of reference, the city's municipal code identifies that the threshold for noise in residential areas at night is 45 decibels. Again, I wanted to identify that in all of the items that were reviewed, transportation or traffic was not an item that was identified as having any kind of impact, and it wasn't anything that required mitigation. So again, there was an analysis that was completed. The analysis did identify it's a trucking facility, so there will be a notable increase to vehicles going on and off the site, trucks going on and off the site, which would increase some of the intersection activity and some of the entrances to the freeways. However, all of these intersections and freeway entrances were designed to accommodate such activity. So none of the project activity would require need for additional mitigation. I did want to point out that the CUP does include a standard condition that the trucks are required to adhere to the city's designated truck routes. And that's what's shown for you on the screen right now. And again, this is to ensure that the trucks are staying on the designated areas that are built and designed to support this type of vehicle traffic. And so we get now to the third portion of this application, which is a request for a zone change. So you'll see the first 30 feet of adjacent to Woodruff Avenue and the south 20 feet adjacent to Woodruff Avenue have a PB designation. This was a parking buffer designation. I should note, and some of the planning commissioners are aware, our PB zone was removed in 2008 with an update to our municipal code. The PB zone is still found on properties on our zoning map. So when these projects do come up, we remove the PB zone because it is an outdated zoning designation. In 2008, staff found with all of the new updates, they were able to achieve the goals of the PB zone without having to have dual zoning on there. So this request would recommend that the city council approve the removal of the PB zone to allow one zoning designation for the property, which would be consistent with the city's general plan. This again is the proposed elevation for the site, and at this time I'm ending our staff report presentation, but I did want to point out the Planning Commission was sent out a revised resolution. The revision to that resolution was specifically for condition number 10. There was a grammatical change to it. The intent is the same, and for the record, it will now read, the permitted hours of operation are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The original did not have the 2 words a day, so we provided additional clarification for that.
I think that was item 12.
Yes, it was condition number 12 in the resolution. Okay, and so at this time, based on the CEQA analysis that was conducted and the analysis that was provided for the Planning Commission in your staff report, staff is recommending approval of the proposed truck terminal, and staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Crystal, for your presentation. Commissioner Espatos, do you have any questions?
I do, yes, thank you, Chairman. Crystal, can you show me on the map, is there, or maybe you don't need to show me, the sources of ingress and egress on the property, are they only on Woodruff? Or does the backside have a driveway that goes out?
It's only on Woodruff.
Because I see a little alleyway of some sort or something there that goes out to the south.
Sure, so on the screen, what this is here is this is the property line and it backs up to other properties. So there isn't any vehicle access here. It's essentially a turnaround. This is remaining clear for fire access if the fire truck needed to come and turn around. Also, the freight trucks need to come and turn around. But it's only on the north and south side of the Woodruff property line.
So the entire property is walled or fenced in, whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay. And then you had mentioned in this report that there is another freight company that operates 24 hours a day. Do we know where the location of that other site is in relation to this? Is it in that similar area? And you could give me an address or a general area, whatever's easy.
Sure, it's in our manufacturing zone, and I do have that address. It's 11937 Regent View Avenue.
Okay. And does that also operate on a similar CUP?
That one operates, yes, there's a CUP for that, I believe, but that one's also 24 hours Monday through Friday. On the weekends, it's 5 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday.
Okay. And then you mentioned there was an analysis of traffic done. There wasn't a traffic study, it was just an analysis that there will not be a significant increase in traffic or volume in and out.
Yeah, there was a traffic analysis that was done as it's one of the appendices to the MND. And so that is where there was an analysis done as to what the vehicle miles would be for the site, what the number of vehicles coming on and off the site would be.
So can you like briefly explain to me what the difference between an analysis and a traffic study to determine whether it's if there's a severe impact on traffic, what's the difference between those two? Like, how do we determine whether it's an issue or not an issue, whether we conduct an analysis or a traffic study because this is a large project from the way I see it.
Yeah. So the terminology is interchanged, unfortunately, and we tend to do that also. So I believe correct terminology is traffic impact analysis, and that's what's typically referred to as a traffic study. So that does identify the activity on the site and what the route is to get there, get off, and then assessing the impacts to the intersections that that activity will be impacting or utilizing. So in this particular situation, what they did is they took a look at the proposed use. They looked at similar uses and activity in other areas, and they compared to identify what the proposed activity would be on here. For this particular site, I believe they identified 279 freight trucks would be passing through potentially throughout the 24-hour period. So as part of that, they identified them following the truck route to the freeways, and they looked at the activity increase in those different intersections. After looking at the activity increases in each of those intersections, they looked at the threshold if it would be impacting the level of service, meaning that it would increase the wait time or the wait time essentially that you're sitting there waiting for the light to turn so that you can get through the intersection. And it didn't find that it would impact the level of service to something that the city isn't able to accommodate, or that is inconsistent with any of our general plan or other approved documents.
So just so I understand it real quick, is that based on loading docks or parking spaces? Just so I understand. So like the way I'm looking at the map here, let's say you have, what is it, 100 loading docks, and each truck comes in and comes out. So that's twice a day times, whatever the number is, 100. And you figure, is that how it's done?
So
as far as traffic is concerned, because I see, docks times 1 in, 1 out, 24 hours a day. Is there a primary time that business is done? Are all trucks coming in from 7 to 9 in the morning? Because if you have 100 docking spots and all those trucks are coming in at 9 a.m. and leaving at whatever their time schedule is at 5, that will create a serious traffic issue in those specific times.
Sure, and that is something that's typically assessed during a traffic impact analysis. So peak times are always looked at, and I believe later on in today's meeting, you have another item where there was peak times that were identified because there was potential for something to occur as a result of that. In this case, there wasn't a potential impact, so the peak time wasn't identified, or at least it wasn't a main focus of it, because the activity occurring here wasn't at a threshold where it would be impactful to the surrounding areas. And so that's usually, and we do have, if you needed further detail of it, but whenever there is an item where it addresses a potential impact or potential peak time, impact essentially, then we would note it. It would be identified clearly in the staff report. A mitigation would be presented for it, and that either limiting activity so that it's not allowed during certain hours of the day because it would cause potential impacts, or there would be, traffic improvements or lighting synchronization, something along those lines. In this case, the activity doesn't go beyond what is expected in a manufacturing area, and that's why we don't see any of that in this report.
I'll try to address also the same question to the applicant to see if maybe they can give me an idea of how that works.
Sure, and again, if I do want to offer, we do have a representative. Dudek is the third-party company that we utilize to conduct the CEQA analysis, including the traffic impact analysis. I believe there was a third party utilized for it, but they would be able to provide additional clarification. If you wanted that, we can ask them to provide more explanation.
Maybe we can get to them and just answer that question in regards to traffic, how freight is conducted. If they're doing, like I had mentioned, 7 to 9 trucks come in, 5 to 7 they leave, or there's 24 hours a day trucks are at different time frames, and it doesn't matter. But I think if it is, we should kind of look into that and see what we're dealing with.
Okay, so Colin Ramsey is on the phone on the meeting, and I believe we just unmuted him. So Colin, would you mind jumping in for this portion?
Yeah, of course. Good evening, commissioners. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, this is Colin Ramsey. I am a project manager with Dudek. Crystal is correct. We performed a traffic impact analysis or traffic study. She's right there, interchangeable terms, for this project. So the trip generation rates that we use for the modeling are actually based on trip generation rates that are produced and published by the ITE, it's the Institution of Traffic Engineers. It's the industry standard that I would say 99% of cities and counties kind of rely on to generate or to produce trip generation rates. For this particular project, we applied the truck terminal trip rate. The Institute for Traffic Engineers at ITE, they get these trip rates from other existing truck terminals kind of throughout the county, or excuse me, throughout the country. So it's based on empirical, like real world trip rates. It does provide, or they do provide, both daily and peak hour rates, both AM and PM. AM being, kind of the busiest peak hour time during the morning, then PM peak hour being the busiest peak hour during the evening. So it is based on like real world trip rates that are collected at these similar facilities.
Okay, maybe I can ask a specific question. Is there a specific time frame that trucks are in and out of that property, or is it consistent throughout the 24-hour period?
I would probably have to defer to the applicant for the specific operational characteristics. I could tell you the modeling does assume roughly 10% of truck trips will occur during the AM peak hour, and roughly 10% will occur during the PM peak hour, with the remaining 80% happening during, I guess, the balance of the 24-hour day, so the balance of the 22 hours, basically.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
That's all, Chairman Duarte. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ortiz?
Some of the questions I had were answered in regards to traffic, so nothing for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Montoya?
Thank you, Chairman. I also had those concerns with regards to vehicle traffic, but I have a couple more questions. So with regards to construction, just to clarify, I know the hours of operation for the business are 24 hours, 7 days a week, but the constructions are confined, I believe, or hours of construction will be from, was it 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. Monday through Friday, and reduced hours on Saturday? Is that correct?
Yes, there is a limitation to the hours of construction activity consistent with what is allowed by the city's municipal code for all construction activity throughout the city. So I believe it is 5 p.m. is the ending time, and believe the
Crystal, if
commissioner.
I can help you, it's condition 36.
Okay.
Commissioners, if you could refer to condition 36 on page 31.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for addressing that. And again, on the subject of construction, so the facade will, or at least the front side of the building will be going through construction. That is not going to bleed into Woodruff Avenue, correct? That'll be self-contained within the site.
That is correct. All construction activity is limited to the site itself and it cannot go into the public right of way.
Okay, perfect. And the last question I had was with regards to the storage tanks in asbestos. So how long ago were these storage tanks removed and I guess verified to be safe? And with the asbestos, once construction is done, will there be kind of a review to ensure that the office areas and work areas are Cal OSHA compliant in those terms?
Sure. So the entire building, in regard to the asbestos, the entire building will be demolished. So the concern isn't so much in people occupying the spaces because they will be removed. The concern is that they be removed in accordance with AQMD standards for removal of known asbestos construction buildings. So that's what we're going to be concerned with. And that's what we're going to be having them complete the study for. So again, the last study on the property was in 1990. So we need to identify where exactly. If you can see on the screen again, it's a very large area with consists of very different buildings that were built at different times. So we need a clear picture of where it is so that they know how to address it, how to contain it when it's being demolished and it doesn't get into the air. Because that could impact surrounding areas. In regard to the underground storage tanks, the removal was in 1989. So it has been some time, and at that time, they went through remediation subject to the county review. In manufacturing areas and old gas station areas, you'll tend to see a lot of this. It's a little more common than I believe most people are aware of. But there is a remediation process that they go through with the county. And once that remediation process is completed to the satisfaction of the county, then they issue out a no further action letter. And that was issued out to this property for all of these storage tanks.
Perfect, thank you. That concludes all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Montoya. Commissioner, I just had just a few questions. Just one, we saw the conditions for the negative declaration, the mitigated negative declaration for the geology, cultural, and tribal. I think we saw those also. We had the Reeves Mansion project. Just wanted to ask, like, what type of project invokes those conditions as opposed to other projects in the city?
Sure. Most of the projects in the city are exempt from the CEQA process. They fall under Article 19 that was referenced. That identifies about 30 or so, 32, 36 different categorical exemptions. So if it's an existing facility that is being remodeled, like the restaurant that we were just looking at, it's an existing building, there isn't any groundwork happening, it's not new construction. So that falls under an exemption through CEQA. Those types of smaller items are also, removal of one single family house and replacement with up to 3 single family houses on the same property. The land use is the same. The essential activity coming and going from the site is relatively the same. So CEQA exempts those types of projects. Something that does require an initial study and review when there is a finding that there is some type of mitigation or some type of project, usually where there's grading or ground disturbance, that's when you'll see these types of mitigations come into play. Again, we don't know what's underground. Most of the city actually at this point is fairly built out, but it's always just a safeguard in the CEQA process that if you're disturbing the ground and you run across an artifact, a fossil, or anything of tribal significance, then those are the types of mitigations that you would see.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And then just a other question I had here, in terms of the decibels, I think it was mentioned that at nighttime they'd be limited to 45 decibels. Just want to know if, because of the nature of the business with big trucks, is that something that's actually attainable. And then relating to that, I saw condition 25 mention decibels, but I'm not seeing the condition for the nighttime decibels of 45. Maybe I overlooked it, but I just didn't see it.
So it wasn't added in there as a specific condition that they maintain the 45 decibels. The 45 decibels is actually something that's required by code in residential areas. The sound isn't supposed to exceed 45 decibels. What the study found during the CEQA analysis was that the activity on the site, the trucks coming and going, loading and unloading, when measured at the closest residential property, it would measure 42 decibels, which is under the 45 that's allowed. And that's due to, again, the distance. So the closest one is to the south, 200 feet away. And then also the existing buildings that are in between to sort of buffer the sound and reduce the noise decibels.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I have no further questions. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city meetings rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you're participating telephonically. Each speaker should have 3 minutes to address the commission. Members of the members of the public wishing to address the planning commission regarding the public hearing for item PLN-19-00132 only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. I will now open the public hearing and we will start by inviting the applicant to address the commission.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the project. My name is Blake Kelly. I'm a Vice President Investment Officer with Prologis and the manager of the project under consideration. We have read the staff report and concur with all 94 conditions and including the 16 mitigation measures. Before I say a few words, I'd like to thank the city staff, especially Alfonso Hernandez and Crystal Landavazo for all of their help and support and assistance in guiding us through the entitlement process. We've taken great care in designing our proposed project and ensure that it's a state-of-the-art facility. Prologis is a long-term owner of real estate of industrial assets and look forward to adding this future Class A facility to our industrial portfolio. While the staff did an excellent job presenting the project, please let me take a few minutes to describe a few important aspects of the project. Prologis is building this on a speculative basis, meaning we don't have a final end tenant in mind. We are building this for the demand of a industrial logistics facility. It's a single-story, 44,000 square foot building comprised of 36,000 square feet of warehouse and up to 8,000 square feet of office. That includes 56 auto parking stalls and 76 truck stalls that include upgraded mature trees and landscaping along the Woodruff Avenue corridor. The access to the property will be via the 2 40-foot driveways with direct access to Woodruff with ample internal circulation and parking. The proposed design for the building is most closely associated with a contemporary architecture style, and care has been made to incorporate articulation into the proposed look of the building to create depth that aligns with the vision the city has for its industrial corridor. We are confident this project will not only be highly successful, but it will also provide an employment opportunity to local residents and provide a great boost to the local economy. We are fully committed to the project and look forward to being part of the community for a long time. In closing, we concur with the staff's conclusion that this project will enhance the site and surrounding areas and will not create significant adverse impacts to adjoining properties. We thank the staff for recommending the approval and look forward to hearing the Planning Commission's questions for our project. Thank you, and please let us know how we can address your questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Espatos, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Sorry about that. There we go. Yeah, same question that I posed earlier. Your best estimation as to how volume and traffic will work at that property. Is there a peak time? Representative from DUDEC explained to us that there's 10% morning peak, 10% afternoon peak, and 80% is the remainder of the day that there's traffic in and out of that property. What's your best estimation as to how traffic will be impacted, and what percentages would you give and times in comparison to volume of traffic? So he said 10% morning peak, 10% afternoon peak. What would you estimate?
Thank you, Commissioner. So we typically see these facilities being operated by sophisticated companies like XPO and FedEx and UPS. They operate typically with trucks coming in. They unload, and they usually are a way to quickly distribute goods from high distribution facilities, large distribution facilities, to smaller end users. So it's spread out throughout the day. The 10% on the front end and the back end, they've become very efficient at being able to quickly move products through this facility. They're not typically stored for long periods of time, so it's a very orchestrated process that the product is offloaded, stored on the floor, and then reloaded onto another truck that then goes to a location where the concentration of that good needs to go. So it's spread throughout the day, and it's an efficient model for the distribution of those goods. So and it depends on the specific user that ends up leasing this type of a facility.
So we really don't know. It's just kind of up in the air as to how it's done, depending on the person leasing that spot or that loading dock or whatever.
Well, they'll lease the entire building. So that one company will operate that facility, all 44,000 feet of it. It's not sub-tenanted to each individual dock door or space within the building. So that's how it's operated. From a traffic perspective, it's pretty consistent throughout the day. So I don't think you're going to see a lull in activity there. You're going to see a pretty consistent truck traffic throughout the day. It's going to run as an efficient operation.
Okay. Another question unrelated to that: was there any art proposal for the front of the building? I know that you were or have participated in one of these CUP numbers for the arts program in Downey. Has that been brought up or discussed?
We're aware of the arts program. It's part of the development impact fees, and we're participating in that. We haven't gotten into that specific detail of what art may be incorporated on this specific site. We spent a lot of time, I think, upgrading the facade and coming up with a mixture of materials from an architectural perspective, but nothing from a specific art element.
Commissioner Spathos, if I can interject, the city requires that developments that exceed a certain threshold participate by installing art at their site or contributing to the Art in Public Places program. I believe this applicant is going to contribute financially to the Art in Public Places program. So it helps us, as you've seen in the community, install art in other places within our city.
Thank you. That's all, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Montoya, do you have any questions?
No further questions to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ortiz?
None to add. Thank you.
Okay. I just, my thoughts were kind of what Commissioner Espato stated in terms of, this is, the applicant stated speculative in the sense that there's not a tenant in place. However, kind of the tenants that will be coming in, are what I want to say, experts in the field. So in terms of the actual traffic conditions and coordinating. something I guess maybe, we can look at in the future or not, but I was satisfied with the answer. So no questions for me. Okay. So with that, take a moment here. Before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you're participating telephonically. Each speaker should have 3 minutes to address the commission. Members of the public wishing to address the planning commission regarding the public hearing for item PLN-19-00132 only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. I will now open the public hearing and we can start by inviting the applicant to, sorry about that. We've done that. Secretary Calhoun, may I have the first speaker on the phone?
Chair Duarte, there are no calls or emails for public comment.
Okay. So I will now close the public hearing. We can begin our deliberation. I'll take turns asking the commissioner if he has any comments. Commissioner Spatos?
You're muted, Commissioner Spathos.
Sorry. Yeah, good looking project. I like it. I'm excited that manufacturing is coming back, and hopefully this will breathe some life into it in the city of Downey. I was kind of shocked that there's only one other large freight company in Downey that's operating similar to this. But that's awesome. The project looks great. I think it will be a great added addition. My concern was traffic, but I agree with Chairman Duarte that it was answered right. I think that whoever leases that space knows how to conduct their business and knows how to get their product in and out quickly. So that's all. I would like to see in the future if we can somehow focus more on traffic, because we're turning into a very, very dense city, and we need to pay very close attention to traffic. And this is a big one, especially with manufacturing and freight coming in and out. So that's all. That was my biggest concern. It was answered. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Montoya?
Yes, I echo the same concerns that Commissioner Spathopoulos mentioned with regards to traffic. But besides that, it does look like a beautiful building, and I think that whichever tenant decides to move in will be pleased with what they're getting.
Thank you. Commissioner Ortiz?
I think all today's points will be about traffic, but I also really enjoyed how the project looks. I think it will be an added asset to the city of design, and I'm sure other buildings will follow suit as well. It's going to add a quality to the city of Downey. So I want to see who leases that, and that's it for me.
Thank you. Yeah, and just wrapping it up again, just one thing to add in terms of the traffic issue or whatnot. Part of the condition, they do have a noise decibel that needs to be met at all times. I think that alleviates some of the concern. But the facade looks great. It looks 100 times better. So I'm excited to see who they bring in. And those are my comments. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll put a motion forward.
Okay.
And I second it.
That would be a motion to approve PLN PLN 19-00132, adopting the amended resolution and the conditions of approval as amended.
That's correct.
You had a motion and a second on that one?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Montoya and the second was by Commissioner Ortiz.
Commissioner Spathopoulos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Aye.
Commissioner Montoya,
Aye.
and Chair Duarte.
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously with all four in favor.
Okay, great. Congratulations. On to item number 3, PLN-19-00173. Do we have, Secretary Kavanaugh, do we have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Director Schindler, can you introduce the staff person presenting this item?
Yes, thanks, Chair Duarte. We have once again our principal planner, Guillermo Arriola, to make the presentation.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. I will be switching to my screen. If you give me 1 second. Okay. Can everyone see the screen? All right. So before you is application PLN 19-00173. It is a request to demolish an existing fast food sit-down restaurant and replace it with a 1,698 square foot Starbucks coffee shop with outdoor seating and a drive-through. The application includes a site plan review, conditional use permit, and variance. And the property is located at 9002 Firestone Boulevard at the southeast corner of Firestone and Lakewood. The property has a zoning designation of Lakewood Firestone Specific Plan 91-2, of which there have been no significant changes since its adoption in 1991. The existing Carl's Jr. restaurant, again, will be demolished and will be replaced with a new Starbucks coffee shop, accessory parking, and landscaping. As a result of the redevelopment of this site, the Public Works Department is requiring a 2-foot dedication along Lakewood Boulevard for street alignment purposes. So that retaining wall that you see there will be pushed back 2 feet. And for comparative purposes, that restaurant is approximately 5 feet away from the property line now. And here we have a rendering from the intersection of what the restaurant will hopefully look like. The site will include the coffee shop and outdoor seating with a wraparound drive-through aisle. Access to the site will be via Firestone and Lakewood Boulevard. The drive-through will include stacking for 9 vehicles. The municipal code requires 8, so they have room for an additional vehicle. The building will include a 24-foot setback off of Firestone at its closest point, and varies along Lakewood Boulevard, but at its closest point will be 21.5 feet. Parking will be located along the east side of the building and along the south side of the property. The project will also include a new trash enclosure on the south property line, and a transformer will be located in the center island at the entrance to the drive-through entrance. The floor plan, there's a floor plan for the coffee shop. Primary entrance is along the east facade, right there, with a secondary entrance from the outdoor seating area. The restaurant will include approximately 700 square feet of indoor seating area, with the remaining portion of the coffee shop dedicated to the restroom areas, the service counter area, the drive-through service, and back of house area for storage and prep areas. The proposed single-story building measures 21 feet in height and is designed in a contemporary architectural style. The building will include a combination of gray stucco with a sand finish wood panels, wood canopies painted black, and clear insulated glass windows with black metal framing. The the building includes a prominent covered seating area that incorporates solar panels, which won't be visible, on the patio roof, along the entrance to the back entrance to the utility cabinet area, uh, restaurant, and I believe over the trash enclosure as well. I believe the solar panels will account for 1/3 of the power to be used by the Starbucks restaurant. The building includes changes in heights along all facades. Treatment was equally provided along all facades. Includes a modulation in and out of the building, jogging, no long expanses of blank walls, and the west elevation will include a white art piece for added visual interest. And the outdoor seating area, will include a modern cable railing that will be accented with vines. The site will include 2,890 square feet of landscaping and will include a combination of trees, flowering plants and shrubs of different heights, and vines as well. So at this point of the presentation, I'd like to turn this over to our consultant from Gandini Group LLC, or Incorporated, sorry, Senior Traffic Engineer Tom Wong will do the presentation of the traffic impact analysis.
Hey, good evening, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. My name is Tom Huang. I'm the traffic engineer that prepared the traffic impact analysis for the Starbucks 9002 Firestone Boulevard project. And this evening, I will highlight the 4 key findings of the traffic study, which will include project trip generation, the offsite intersection analysis results, and the parking demand analysis, and finally the queuing analysis for the drive-through lane. So on this first slide, for the project trip generation, the proposed coffee shop will generate 81 less daily trips than the existing fast food restaurant that's currently on the site. So that's based on comparison of what the coffee shop would generate. And then the second key finding is that for the intersection operations, the adjacent offsite intersection of Lakewood Boulevard and Firestone Boulevard will operate within acceptable level service, that's level service D or better, based on the city's guideline. Okay, and then the third key finding for the queuing analysis, what we did is we conducted count surveys in September 2020 at 3 similar Starbucks stores that was located in Downey, Whittier, and La Mirada to be used as forecast data for the proposed project. And based on the survey counts, the average demand are 9 and 10 queuing vehicles during the weekday and Saturday. So that's 9 during the weekdays and 10 during the weekends. And the project provides 9 vehicle stacking lengths in the drive-through lane. So there should be adequate stacking length because the parking aisle should be able to accommodate the 1 additional vehicle that spills out during the weekends. Okay, and then the observed 85th percentile, and that's the peak queue are 12 vehicles and 14 vehicles during the weekdays and during the Saturday peak periods. And it should be noted that the 85th percentile, that is the top 15% of the observed queue lengths during the peak periods. And so the peak demand may occur occasionally for a short duration during the 15% of peak period. The peak periods are in the morning from 7 to 9 a.m., 4 to 6 p.m. That's the typical commuting peak periods. So that's 4 hours in the day. So if you have 15% of that, so that pushes approximately 15 to 20 minutes during the morning and afternoon peak periods that they occasionally that you would experience very high queuing. However, it should be noted that these we counted in September 2020, so these count during the time the COVID restriction of no indoor dining. Because of that restriction, the data most likely increase the typical queue length that what will be considered normal. So in this case, is our opinion that the average queue length may be a more reasonable estimate for the proposed project. So therefore the 9-vehicle stacking length is provided in the queue length in the drive-through lane would appear to be adequate. Okay, so I'll move on second slide. For the parking demand analysis, we conducted the two-step analysis. The first step was to estimate the peak demand based on the published ITE parking rates, and and the ITE parking rate came from a parking data, a national database maintained by the Institute of Transportation Engineer (ITE), and it's the same institute that also published trip generation rates. Okay, and then the second step, what we did is we also estimate the parking demand based on conducting actual survey counts at the same three Starbucks location on Downey, Whittier, and La Mirada, so that we have local data as opposed to national database. So based on the ITE's average price, we have it's estimated 9 and 16 parked vehicles are anticipated during the weekday and Saturday average peak periods. Since the project is providing 18 parking spaces, so there's adequate parking spaces for average conditions. Based on the 85th percentile ITE parking rates, 23 and 21 parked vehicles are, during the peak time may be anticipated for a short time during the top 15% of the peak period. So again, so there'll be time that approximately 15 to 20% during the morning and afternoon peak period that you may have a very, very high peak. Okay. All right, so, and then for the second step where and then comparing the trip rates, the third, that would be the kind of the second bullet point, second from the last bullet points there. Based on our actual survey that we conducted at Starbucks was 9 vehicles were observed. The average of 9 vehicles observed during the weekday Saturday peak periods. And then and the 85th percentile of 12 vehicles. So based on comparison to all these different trip rates of all these different parking rates that we're giving us, is our conclusion that there should be adequate parking spaces during typical conditions. So this concludes my summary of the key finding of the traffic impact analysis, and I'm available to answer any questions. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong.
I'll continue with the presentation. I'll be wrapping it up now. The DRC discussed and evaluated the project, and the Public Works Department required a 2-foot dedication along Lakewood Boulevard for street alignment purposes, and all the other departments provided standard comments. Stated previously, the applicant is requesting approval of a site plan review, a conditional use permit, and a variance application to develop the site. The variance would be for reduction from 36 to 18 parking spaces. Based on the findings of the traffic impact study analysis and the attached resolutions, staff recommends approval of PLN 19-00173. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ayala. Okay, Commissioner Espatos, do you have any questions for Mr. Ariola or Mr. Wong?
I do for both. I have a feeling you're going to know what I'm going to ask you, Planner Ariola. These open air, which look really cool and have a great appeal, but again, as far as safety, is that a reinforced wall that I see there that looks about 3 feet, and behind it looks like one, two, I see 3, 4 pillars spaced probably 6 feet apart. Are those reinforced uh, pillars?
Mr. Commissioner Spatos,
Yes.
we have a retaining wall along the front. We did not require a reinforced wall simply because you have the wall, you have the area of the drive-through area, and then you have the seating area. So you have some space in between the seating area and the street. However, it's not outside the realm of possibility to require that the wall be reinforced, just like we did for the Mariscos Choice project, and speak to the applicant about what the possibility is of reinforcing these columns to be reinforced for safety purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll discuss that later, and I think just a piece of advice for the planners. I know you guys are awesome and you do your job, but this seems to be becoming very popular lately, and I think it's something that we need to consider, that anything that goes up needs to be reinforced when there's public access, especially. I think Lakewood and Firestone Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the busiest east, west, south, north corridors in Southern California, if I'm not mistaken. So absolutely, that's a recommendation that I'm going to be making. Whether it's reinforced walls, bollards, pillars, something. And I think it's something that you guys should start looking into when you have open air patios and public, feet, away from heavy traffic. That's all. Thank you.
Noted, sir.
Nothing further, Commissioner Spelton? Okay. Commissioner Ortiz?
I have a question. Are they removing the Walgreens, all that side, for additional area for drive-through, or is that going to remain?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. Can you repeat the question?
Are you guys removing the Walgreens sign, the whole divider right there, or is that going to stay the same?
No, that area is not being touched, Commissioner Ortiz.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
Commissioner Montoya?
Yes, I just have one question, and I think I just kind of want it out in the open for public clarification. So it's my understanding that there's also a Starbucks in the Farmers and Merchants Bank. What would happen with that should this project get approved? Would that still remain?
Commissioner Montoya, that's actually it's going to be relocated to this location. They will be closing the location, the Farmer Merchant Bank, and this would be the Starbucks for that area.
Okay, perfect. That's all I wanted to just kind of make clear in the open. Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. I have one question here in regards to parking. This could be either for Mr. Ariola or Mr. Wong. In terms of the stalls going down from 36 to 18, it says including one accessible space. How did that number for one? It seems kind of like a small number for, I would say, handicap accessible spaces. And also, I don't see any spaces dedicated for electrical vehicles. Just wanted to see why wasn't that considered an EVC space and maybe an additional small handicap accessible stall.
If I can first add a little piece of information, the uppermost parking space is going to be a future EVC parking accessible parking stall. So there's one.
Where's that?
The northernmost parking space is going to be an EVC accessible parking space.
Okay.
And regarding the number of accessible parking spaces, we do have the city traffic engineer, Mr. Ed Norris. Mr. Norris, are you there to answer the number of accessible parking spaces that are required? I believe it's one, right?
Yes, correct. Per the Americans with Disabilities Act and the municipal code, there's require to be one disabled parking space for every total of 25 parking spaces.
Okay. I have no further questions. Mr. Earl, I like the background there, the John Wooden.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
I thought you were talking about the rendering.
Before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you're participating telephonically. Each speaker shall have 3 minutes to address the commission. Members of the public wishing to address the planning commission regarding the public hearing for item PLN-19-000173 only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. I am now opening the public hearing and we will start by inviting the applicant to address the commission.
Good evening. This is Chris Huddleston. On behalf of the ownership group and the Starbucks Coffee Company, I want to thank the Planning Commission for hearing our project tonight. We started this redevelopment process in April 2019, and we couldn't be more excited about the prospect of upgrading this prominent corner in Downey, and especially doing it with a world-class partner like Starbucks. Tonight's really the culmination of 2 years of meticulous planning and thoughtful design, and really none of this would have been possible without really thoughtful input by Guillermo and Crystal in planning, and both also Ed Norris in Public Works and the Gandini Group. Joining us tonight at the hearing, we have Starbucks' senior designer, Slade Blanchard. We've got Greenberg Farrow's principal architects, Duggan and Dira, and Starbucks' LA store development manager, Carrie Helenga. So really with that, thank you for having us, for your thoughtful comments and your questions, and we're just really excited about the state-of-the-art, really carefully planned COVID-compatible project. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open it up. Commissioner Spatos, do you have any questions? I think you do.
Commissioner Spatos, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I have a question for Mr. Huang. Thank you to the applicant for that presentation, by the way. Mr. Huang, you had mentioned that at this particular site, there's going to be 81 less daily vehicle trips. Is that correct?
Yes.
How is that? Is it because people aren't going in to eat anymore at the old restaurant, or is it because the main source of business there is going to be drive-through? When you say daily trips, is that in the parking lot parking?
Okay, that's comparing the trips in and out of the site on a daily basis. What we did is we compare what the existing fast food restaurant without a drive-through and how much it generate based on the IT trip generation rates, and then we calculate what the trip will be for the coffee shop with the drive-through. So compare those two, and the calculation is actually on table 3 of the traffic study, and that's on the PC agendas, page 75. Okay. Yeah. So if you can look that up, and that's where the calculation came out to be.
Very, very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all, Chairman Duarte, for now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ortiz?
Really nice concept. It looks really good. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Montoya?
Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Okay. I have one, just my question here is a concern that Commissioner Spatos earlier stated. In terms of the wall, the little 3 foot wall, how does the applicant feel about, reinforcing that wall? I know that there's a little bit of greenery and a drive-through, but it is actually one of the most, you know, um, active intersections, I think, in California, or I know it's just a really busy intersection. The applicant, what are your thoughts on reinforcing that wall in terms of this project?
I'll leave this to the architects and designers. So, Doug, Indira, Slade, do you want to jump in on that?
Mr. Chair, if I may, before we get additional input, based on the suggestion by Commissioner Spathos, staff was looking at potential locations for the barriers or the bollards to provide additional security so that we wouldn't interfere with the architecture that was proposed for the building or for the outdoor patio area. And we believe putting the bollards so that they're camouflaged within the proposed landscape planner that extends from Lakewood Boulevard and curves toward Firestone. The interior border of that landscape planner, we believe, would be an appropriate location for that, and we can provide a condition to that effect if the applicant is agreeable to that.
Doug Cooper, I think, can take this question for us. Doug, if you're available. Oh, he's muted right now, if you guys wouldn't mind unmuting.
Okay, they just let me go. Yes, yeah, actually, we would like to remove that wall. So, I mean, if we can bury, the bollards within the landscape, that would probably look more aesthetically pleasing on that corner. So, because we hadn't finished our final grading plans on this, so, since we're moving everything back away from the roadway, and we have that buffer of landscape, and we also have the drive-through lane before it even gets to the building. I think it would be a good idea to just to bury the bollards within the landscape area so that they're not visually distracting from the design of the project.
Okay, so Chris, that to be something that you guys would accept as a condition, correct?
That's correct, and I don't know that we've had discussion or the commission can give us further direction in regard to the retaining wall. But in regard to the bollards, which we believe would protect both the outdoor seating area and the drive-through vehicles that are sitting there, the proposed condition that staff has available is it would be, Guillermo, if you can give me what that new condition number would be, the last planning condition, but it would read the interior border of the landscape planner that curves from Lakewood Boulevard to Firestone Boulevard must be provided with decorative bollards incorporated and camouflaged within the proposed landscaping.
Can we ask a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible, I don't know if the intent is to protect the vehicles or protect the people sitting on the patio. But if the intent is to protect the people on the patio, would it be possible to, put some sort of decorative railing in that, is sort of reinforced or something like that? Or, are you more set on having something outside of the drive-through lane, that protects the vehicles as well?
The commission can provide clarification. At this point, I believe it is sort of twofold. The initial concern comes from having pedestrians sitting out in an area where they can be exposed to the vehicles. In this situation, because that is a very busy intersection, we've had extensive discussions about that intersection. I think there is some concern also that those vehicles are just there. So if there is a car crashing, you're stuck in a drive-through queue. You can't go anywhere but to sit there. So if we are providing protection, I would recommend that we provide protection to the entire area.
If I can interject, Crystal, I think that the way that the project was proposed is nothing would change. The only addition that I would include in the CUP as a line item would be to include like the applicant or the architect mentioned, is decorative bollards to be included in the planting area between the street and the vehicles. That way nothing would change, your project wouldn't change. It would just include safety bollards in the landscaping area. And it's mostly in the city of Downey, and this is towards the applicant, we've had accidents on that corner that I think is my biggest concern, and I would assume the other commissioners on this panel as well. Just to protect everyone, we don't want this to become an issue. It only has to happen once. And it wouldn't change, nothing in the project would change, the proposal wouldn't change. The only thing that would be included as a line item is to include, bollards 3 feet apart, not to exceed the size of a vehicle. That way, if something happens, we would be protected, and any potential customers would be protected.
Also, I wanted to clarify on the dedication. Is it 2 feet or 1 foot dedication on Lakewood?
It's a 2-foot dedication.
So to move the conversation along, staff's supportive of Commissioner Spatho's request in terms of that bollard installation, and also that they're camouflaged with the landscaping as well. So I'll turn the rest of the conversation over to Chairman Duarte.
Okay, great. Secretary Kavanaugh, may I have the first speaker on the phone?
Chair Duarte, there are no calls for public comment.
Secretary Kavanaugh, have any written public comment on the item PLN-19-00173 to be read into the record?
Yes, Chair, we have 2 emails. First email is from Rodolfo Cortez Barragan. Hello, Planning Commission. I speak as a lover of independent coffee shops, including those in Downey. I oppose replacing one oppressive company, Carl's Jr., with a more oppressive company, Starbucks. Starbucks exploits labor and the environment all around the world, especially in Downey, where community members have been fired for attempting to start a union. Moreover, there are already enough Starbucks in Downey, at least 7 according to Google Maps. Instead, we should build a non-corporate community coffee shop. I urge you to reject the request from Starbucks. Rodolfo Cortez. I do have one more, bear with me.
Mary, I have the email here. Would you like me to read it?
No, thank you. I have it right here.
Okay, great.
From Gabriel Ramirez. Good evening, City of Downey and Planning Commissioners. As a coffee lover of small local moms and pops coffee shops, I oppose big chain corporate companies like Carl's Jr., Starbucks, and many more big chains that are oppressive. Starbucks exploits labor and the environment all around the world, especially in communities like Downey, where community members have been fired for attempting to start a union. The City of Downey has at least 4, according to Starbucks. The community deserves better by building mom and pops community coffee shops, not corporate coffee companies who will pay little to none on taxes. Tonight, you have the opportunity to vote and make this beloved community proud by voting to reject the request from Starbucks. Regards, Gabriel Ramirez, resident of El Monte, Assembly District 49th, elected California Democratic Party delegate and alternate Los Angeles County Democratic Central Committee. And that was the last email.
Thank you. We will now close the public hearing. Okay, we can now begin the deliberation. I'll take turns asking each commissioner if he has any comments. I'll start with Commissioner Ortiz.
I think this is just renovating one small Starbucks across the street to something that I think will be nice. I share this sentiment of protecting all customers that go in that area, understanding that Lakewood and Firestone are pretty busy intersection. So I'm pretty excited to submit my response for this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortiz. Commissioner Montoya.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say that to me, it's from a business standpoint, makes sense to move that location into this one. You know, and looks like it's going to be a great looking Starbucks, and I anticipate a lot of people going to visit. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Montoya. Commissioner Spatos.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to echo that sentiment. I'd like to thank, first of all, Starbucks for that presentation, Planner Areola, and the applicant who's here today. I like the project. I think it's a good-looking project. I agree with Commissioner Montoya that it does make business sense, especially in these times of COVID, to move from a location that doesn't have a drive-through to somewhere that does have a drive-through. You know, Starbucks is a corporation, and you know, the letters read into the meeting today, I can respect them, I can appreciate them. I do not agree with them. So I like the project. I think it's a good-looking project. I think it's going to do wonders for the city of Downey. Who doesn't like a Starbucks? However, I would like to add that we incorporate into that CUP an additional line item for the items we discussed. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Spatos. You know, I echo those thoughts. You know, I think you know, I'd like to thank, you know, the staff, Mr. Areola, Mr. And Chris here. I think this was you know, it's a nice rendering. I think it's an upgrade to the existing Starbucks, and it just makes sense to, you know, to have the drive-through. You know, I approve this. You know, I approve of the project just with that one line item that will be added on here to include the extra security with the ballards along the exterior. So, you know, those are my thoughts.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask for a clarification. So we understood that the bollards are proposed in the to be installed 3 feet apart in the landscape planter. Can I get clarification as to whether that was just on Firestone or if it was supposed to curve toward Lakewood as well?
I would include to be on the south west corner, from the middle of Lakewood Boulevard to the middle of Firestone Boulevard. So that so actually, I'm sorry, it would be the southeast corner that would include the curve, protecting any potential customers and vehicles in that queue line from vehicles traveling at high rates of speed going either east or going south.
Yeah, I would agree with that in the sense that I know that where the customers would be situated is on Firestone, but I would agree to have it alongside Lakewood too. You know, and then just if anything happens, that would just totally disrupt the actual drive-through of the business. So I have it along the, you know, both Lakewood and Firestone.
Okay, for the commission's review, staff has prepared a condition that reads, bollards installed 3 feet apart must be placed and camouflaged within the street-facing landscape planter from the middle of Firestone Boulevard to the middle of Lakewood Boulevard.
Okay. And what number would that be, Crystal?
That would be 33.
33.
And then all conditions after that would change by 1.
Change by 1. Okay. With that, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve PLN-19-00173 with the additional line item in the CUP.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Ortiz. Secretary Camel, may you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Spathopoulos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Aye.
Commissioner Montoya,
Aye.
and Chair Duarte.
Aye.
And the motion passes with 4 in favor with the to approve PLN 19-00173 with the added condition as stated.
Congratulations. Okay, moving along to our non-agenda public comment. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for the public to address the Planning Commission on items within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission and not listed on the agenda. It is requested but not required that you state your name, address, and subject matter upon what you wish to speak. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes pursuant to the Brown Act. No discussion or action other than a brief response, referrals to the city planning staff, or schedule for a subsequent agenda shall be taken by the Planning Commission on any issue brought forth under this section. Before we begin the non-agenda public comment period, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city's meetings rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you are participating telephonically. Each speaker should have 3 minutes to address the commission on issues that are within the commission's jurisdiction. Members of the public wishing to address the planning commission regarding the non-agenda public comments only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comments via teleconference will be permitted. Secretary Kavanaugh may have the first speaker on the phone.
Chair Duarte, there are no calls for non-agenda public comments nor emails.
Okay, great. I will now close the non-agenda public comment section. Moving on to the consent calendar.
Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
I just wanted to let the commission know, we don't have a quorum to approve item number 6. And more importantly, we're going to need Chairman Duarte to volunteer to watch the video of that meeting as well, because yes, that's right. We lost a commissioner. We gained 2 new ones who weren't appointed at the time of the meeting. So you drew the short straw.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Okay, so going on to our consent calendar, each item will be voted on in a section and in one motion unless a commissioner or sitting requests separate actions. Anyone wishing to discuss the consent calendar item should be recognized by the chairman, state name, address, and agenda item number. Further, any consent calendar items removed from the agenda will be considered by the commission following the public hearing items. Before we begin the consent calendar comment period, I'd like to remind members of the public participating telephonically that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with that orderly conduct of the meeting, even if you're participating telephonically. Each speaker shall have 3 minutes to address the commission on consent calendar items. Members of the public wishing to address the Planning Commission regarding consent calendar items only may now call our teleconference line at 562-299-6622. For those who submitted comments via email, your comments will be read into the record and no further public comment via teleconference will be permitted. Secretary Cowell may have the first speaker on the phone.
Chair Duarte, there are no calls nor emails for the consent calendar items.
Okay, we will now close the consent calendar public comments. Just as Director Schindler has stated, we don't have quorum for item number 6. Going to our general plan consistency finding and our 2020 general plan progress report. Do we have any discussion on these items? Commissioner Spatos?
None. Thank you.
Commissioner Montoya?
None to add as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz.
None to add. Thank you.
Okay, and I have no comments. Is there a motion to adopt the consent calendar items 4 and 5?
I will make a motion to adopt consent calendar item 4 and 5.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Secretary Camo, may you please take a roll call vote?
My apologies. May I confirm the second was Commissioner Montoya?
Correct.
Thank you. Commissioner Spathopoulos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Aye.
Commissioner Montoya?
Aye.
And Chair Duarte?
Aye.
And the motion passes to approve items 4 and 5 of the consent calendar with all 4 in favor.
Okay. And just let me know when I could get to hear those minutes from October 21st. I look forward to it. Going on to other business, does any commissioner have any other business to mention tonight? Commissioner Montoya.
No new business to add. Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz.
And to add, just wishing everybody a happy Ash Wednesday, start to Easter. Hope everybody enjoys this Lent season.
Thank you. And Commissioner Spatos.
I would like to add a discussion. We actually talked with Aldo about this corner of Lakewood and Firestone Boulevard. I don't know if we can have it reviewed or have somebody look into something being done on that corner, the corner property in front of that the paint body shop that has an art piece and some lighting on it at night. Just looks like it needs to be finished. So I don't know if that's something we can discuss or look into a little further. Would be great.
Thanks, Commissioner Spathos. I'll look into that. Not generally under the purview of the Planning Commission, but I do understand the concern as a community member and somebody that probably drives it on a daily basis. And so we, like yourselves, want the community to look as pretty as possible and be proud about what we do. So we'll definitely look into it and get back to you.
Okay, great. I don't have any other business comments. So Director Schinner, do you have any staff comments?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to thank you for your support of item number 4 tonight. That actually achieves a great administrative milestone in regards to the construction of our sports complex that's being built by the county with our partnership. There's going to be some soccer fields, a multi-use adult soccer, football, and lacrosse field out at the 5-acre site next to Gardendale. If you've driven by lately, you've seen that all the buildings out there have been demolished, and they're doing their finishing touches on clearing that dirt. There'll be a groundbreaking on March 13th, and we'll make sure to notice the commissioners. It's going to be a COVID-friendly groundbreaking, and quite frankly, it'll be our first. So we're still trying to figure out how to limit the attendance and do something virtual to include the community. But we're excited that construction will be progressing very, very soon on the construction of that sports complex. And that concludes my update.
Okay, this was Mr. Flores and Matias' pet project? Or?
Yes, all about soccer.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned at 8:56 p.m. Thank you very much. Go get some Starbucks.
Good evening, everyone.